Some large corporations use stalling tactics to avoid bargaining in good faith with their employees. What changes to labor law and labor law enforcement do you recommend to address this issue?
The American labor movement is under fire, not from small businesses or struggling companies, but from corporate giants with unlimited power. As Congress battles over the shutdown, workers across the nation are fighting a different kind of battle for their right to organize, to be heard, and to be treated fairly. Today, we're diving deep into the Senate hearing where Senator Maggie Hassan, Teamsters President Sean O'Brien, and other witnesses exposed shocking examples of corporate stalling, broken labor laws, and how companies like Amazon are playing the system to silence their workers. Stay tuned, because what you'll hear today could change how you see America's biggest employers forever.
Senator Hassan.
Well, thank you, Chair Cassidy and Ranking Member Sanders, for having this hearing, and I thank all the witnesses for being here today. Before I get to my questions, though, I want to take a moment to address the fact that the federal government remains shut down as we are having this hearing. And while today this committee discusses a really important topic, Congress should be working to find a bipartisan path to do two things: reopen the government and take action to prevent health insurance costs from skyrocketing for everybody, and to prevent millions of Americans from losing their health insurance. That is what is at stake right now. So while I look forward to hearing from our witnesses, I'm going to continue to urge my colleagues to come together on a bipartisan basis and reach an agreement to get this done. Now, to Mr. O'Brien, workers are sometimes unaware of their rights and protections under the National Labor Relations Act, which I will also just note was deemed constitutional back in like 1937. So this notion that we need to revisit the constitutionality of it seems to me to be misplaced. Mr. O'Brien, we can help overcome that knowledge gap by ensuring that a notice of protected rights is posted in the workplace. You have talked about the need to get some laws on the books a step at a time that help workers. So I'm working with Senator Hawley on introducing legislation that would help achieve this. Can you speak to how advancing common sense proposals like this would help level the playing field for workers?
Yeah, I think it's important that when you go into workplace, whether union or non-union, you know your rights, you know your federal rights as an employee. And if you go into any workplace now, whether it's union or non-union, you see OSHA standards posted, you see fair wage law notices posted, you see a lot of postings, but you don't see certain postings on people's right to organize in the workplace. And I think if we're truly going to be consistent about postings, we should include everybody's rights in the workplace and what those rights are. Transparency is a key. And I know this new generation of workers coming into any industry, they are extremely want transparency in the workplace. They want to know their rights, whether it's union or non-union. Right. So I applaud you and Senator Hawley for taking that initiative.
Thank you very much. Ms. Abruzzo, some large corporations use stalling tactics to avoid bargaining in good faith with their employees. What changes to labor law and labor law enforcement do you recommend to address this issue?
Thanks for the question. Let me just give you an example of Amazon, a warehouse in Staten Island, where the workers voted for the union, Teamsters Union actually, back in April of 2022. And Amazon is still not at the bargaining table, right. October of 2025. And so it is a real problem. And I agree that I think we need to speed up first contract bargaining. But what I will say is it's not enough, because unless you can make more robust organizing rights and protections, you don't get to the bargaining table.
Right.
So it's really important to address that.
So I'm going to follow up with you on some specifics, because I think we would all be interested in hearing what some of those specifics might be to get us to this point where the stalling tactics are curtailed, right? And we could enforce the law. Mr. Cochran, just because I've just got a minute, I wanted to move to you. I want to follow up on the question I just asked to Ms. Abruzzo, because you've experienced these stalling tactics firsthand. Right, yes. With VW. Given your on-the-ground perspective, what impact do these stalling tactics have on workers who are trying to negotiate?
So the biggest impact we see is that it's the fatigue factor. It's where they kind of makes them where they want to give up. They want to stop fighting because they feel like they're winning. There's no win. They can't win it. But with the NLRB standard, Volkswagen also knows too that there's no real penalty for them. They can just push it and push it and push it and push it. And at the end of the day, if they're found guilty of all of it, it's just a notice hung up in the plant saying we won't do it again, and we start the process over again.
yeah.
So the workers feel like there is absolutely no way to win.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. Lucky for us, we have some very strong workers in our plant, and they're not giving up.
Right. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
During a Senate hearing held amid a government shutdown, Senator Maggie Hassan called for accountability and unity, linking political gridlock to the struggles faced by American workers. She highlighted that most workers don't know their organizing rights, announcing bipartisan legislation with Senator Josh Hawley to require workplaces to post this information. Teamsters President Sean O'Brien backed the idea, stressing that transparency is essential. Ms. Abruzzo condemned Amazon for refusing to negotiate with its unionized Staten Island workers since 2022, calling it corporate stonewalling. Volkswagen worker Mr. Cochran described how such tactics demoralize employees, with companies facing little to no punishment. Despite divisions in Washington, both parties are beginning to agree that fair labor practices shouldn't be political. The hearing underscored a larger struggle over power, fairness, and workers' rights, a fight that's far from over.